You know, some people talk about managing their time or managing their properties or managing their investments or managing their team. And I think of all of the assignments that a leader has, managing people, leading people, reading people, that's the toughest assignment. Welcome to Leading Leaders Podcast, 5-minute videos, 5 days a week. I'm Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. It's so hard to read people. I mean, the stock market, it's up and it's down and it moves and it crashes, and there are outside influence and global economic issues and global social issues and wars and political movements, and all of those things can impact the stock market. So managing your investments, that takes some pretty good skill, but there's also patterns. There are things that you can look at and say, I know that if this happens, then that's a predecessor to this and a predictor of that, and so I can follow those trends. And I know if the housing market goes up, the interest rate is going to follow, and all of those kinds of tools to understand what's going to change next in the environment. It's like being a weatherman. I mean, predicting the weather isn't a science as much as they'd like you to think it is. There's a little more guesswork because while this Earth is spinning in a giant circle and these jet streams and these cold fronts and the high pressure zones are moving around the Earth, they're actually moving in one direction while the Earth is spinning in the other. It really is a little more guesswork than prediction. It's more magic in some cases. But for the most part, if they say a cold front's coming and rain is going to follow it, there's a science to that. There will be rain here because of the cold front. There will be rain here because of the warm moisture coming up from the Gulf. Those are fairly predictable things. Lake effect snow, we don't see that in Texas, but when I was in Erie, Pennsylvania, serving there, the Erie knew what lake effect snow was and that there was going to be more snow in certain parts of town than there would be in other parts of town because of the lake effect of the snow. And so those things are, well, they're predictable, they're readable. You can believe that the sun's going to come up in the east and go down in the west, and so you can base your day on that, but people are different. See, the weather doesn't choose to do something different, and the weather doesn't intentionally lie to you or manipulate you. The weather doesn't take advantage of your kindness. The weather doesn't cheat you out of anything. The weather just does what the weather does. And if you can learn to read it, learn to predict it, much like the stock market, you can at least forecast within a level of tolerance what the behavior is going to be. People, to some degree, experts, the FBI and CIA and other hostage negotiators and terrorist negotiators and interrogators, they've learned how to read the people's eye movements and body movements, and NLP comes into play very quickly with what do you expect out of this person? How do you know if they're telling you the truth or not? But most leaders, well, we just don't get that kind of skill set. We don't get that kind of training. We're expected to lead people who have ulterior motives and lead people who have drama going on at home and lead people who, well, they just want our job or they just want the next job or they just want a promotion or they just want a raise. And it's really hard to lead people like that. They're not as predictable as the weather or the stock market. So how do you do that? Well, you got to learn to read people. You got to take mental notes in the way that you interact with people. You've got to do your homework. You got to do some reading up on leadership skills and people reading skills and learn to read body language and eye movement and tone of voice and pace. You need to understand some personality disorders. Understand that narcissism is a real thing and it will impact your workplace in a heartbeat. But as a leader, probably the toughest assignment is not the travel and it's not the long hours, although those can wear you out. It's managing people, it's leading people, it's reading people. That's the hardest part of leadership. And if you think that you want to get the next promotion or you want to move into that role of being the boss, being the leader, being the supervisor, ask yourself this question: how comfortable am I with the people around me when they lie and they deceive and they manipulate? And am I capable not only of tolerating that, but of managing that to the point that I can make the most good of it? When you can honestly say to yourself in the mirror, I'm okay with somebody lying and manipulating, somebody taking advantage of me, because I know that in the end, I'm going to do what's right by them and what's good for the team. When you reach that point, you're ready for the next level of leadership. But the toughest assignment you'll ever have as a leader is reading people. I'm Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day. Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom.